Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. My name is Justine Chappell. I'm the Communications and Marketing Manager for ZAPP. Today, I'm going to share 7 tips and tricks for effectively managing your event products. Some of the info we cover will be basic knowledge and how-tos, and some will include pro tips and suggestions for maximizing your use of ZAPP. The first tip I have for you is just a general overview of how to set up different products and different product types in ZAPP. Let's go into the ZAPP event editor. We'll go to our event here, go to the event editor, and then we'll click the product editor. So when you are setting up your products in the product editor, you'll notice here we already have a few set up, but under the new product line, that is where we will be setting up products. So starting with the jury fee, we have that is the first that will always be at the top of the product editor because that is default and that is required for all events. And you'll see the cost is the first section to look at, and that's where you'll enter the cost of your jury fee. Early bird and late fees we will go over in another section of the webinar. Under sold of quantity, that you will, for other products, put in a quantity amount, but for jury fees, that is just left open-ended so that anyone can apply. For the description, you'll put in what the artist will see on the checkout page when they are going to purchase those products. So just be sure your description for any products you set up is accurate to what you want it to be and reflects the product that they're purchasing. Under accepted payments, you will choose whether you accept all payments, just credit card or PayPal, and or check. We'll talk a little bit about accepting check payments a little bit later as well, but just know that that's where you enter those different types. Under product type, that's where normally you'll choose the product type that this product should be associated with. Some of them have various rules. I'm actually going to show a little bit here. Based on the product type, certain artists can view that product and purchase it. So when we're talking about the jury fee or the admin fee, those can both be purchased by any applicant. So any artist that comes and applies on ZAPP, and the first step after they submit their application is paying that jury fee. You can have an optional admin fee. So if you wanted to create a product under the admin type, this is usually used for pre-application needs. So maybe something like a membership fee if you need only members can apply to this event. But if someone wants to become a member, they can purchase their fee at the same time they're applying for the event. You could set up an admin fee so that they can purchase that when they check out with their application. The other fees that we have available: booth fee, deposit, canopy, electric, tent, and other. Those products are only visible to artists in the exempt from jury, invited, accepted, or confirmed statuses. So this implies that the artist has applied to the event, they've gone through the jury process, been accepted, maybe they're exempt, but in whatever case, they will be going to the event. And so in the invited, once they accept or reject their invitation, I should say, when they accept their invitation, they will then be able to purchase these different product types. So this kind of shows that difference where, jury fee and admin fees are really only for applicants, whereas the rest of the fees are for artists that have been juried into the event. Again, when you create a new product, you'll just be doing that at the very bottom line, and you'll enter your cost, your quantity, the description, payment type, and at the end is where you'll choose whether or not that falls into a certain category. And if it doesn't, you can just use the other product type and then make sure your event description or your fee description is pretty clear what that product is for. Just to round out our overview of the product editor, you've got the active column. We'll talk a little bit about this as well later on, but basically, as long as the box is checked, artists will be able to see and purchase that product. If the box is unchecked, they will not be able to see it in the checkout. There's a few different reasons why you might leave that on and off, but again, we'll talk about that in a little bit of a later section. If you ever need to delete a product, just note you can't delete products after they've already been purchased. But if no one has purchased that product yet, you can go ahead and delete it. And maybe you need to remove something from the list, or you accidentally created a duplicate product, you can delete that so long as it hasn't been sold yet. Also, in each product, you'll see the override purchase deadline option. This will override your accept invitation and purchase deadline so that folks outside of that window can purchase the product. This is usually used for one-off cases when artists need to go in and make a purchase, but that deadline might have already passed, and they need to go in, or it can be used before that purchase deadline, and artists can purchase that before the booth purchasing period. As you're creating your products, just be sure you click save as you're editing them. Make sure you click add once you add a new one, and you'll have your product set up. All right, so our next tip that I'm going to share is how to use the early bird and late jury fees feature. So if you don't already know, in ZAPP, you can set up an early fee and a late fee to apply at certain periods of time during your application window. So you can basically charge up to 3 different costs for your jury fee. One for the period of time that is, a little bit cheaper, which is the early bird, and then one which is the regular time for the regular fee, and then the third would be that more expensive late fee for applying a little bit closer to the deadline. So if you want to set this up, you can just click on the view/update fees plus sign next to the jury fee cost, and this will pull up the module for early bird and late fees. For the early bird fee, you can toggle it on or off if you want to use it. If you turn it on, you'll just insert the cost that period of time will charge. And then the start date is grayed out because that's actually set to the date that your application will open. So the earliest an artist can apply. And then you will set the end date for when that early bird fee period will end. So whatever that window is at the beginning of your application window. For the late fee, again, you'll enter your cost. You will set the start date for this one because this is a period of time that you want to start charging that late fee closer to your real deadline. Now, I know some folks might set a normal deadline where, artists will see their application deadline on the application, and they can submit the regular fee up until that point, and then maybe towards the end of the application window, the event organizer might quote unquote extend the application deadline, in which case they'll change it in the event information tab. This date will then update to that new application deadline, and they'll start that late fee window. So a couple different ways to do it, but if you wanted to just set it all up from the beginning, you'll go ahead and turn both those on and set those start and end dates for each of those periods. So go ahead and click save once you're done adding or editing those, and you will have those all set up. You can always view that application window here. Just be sure that you also include these dates and the fee types or the fee costs in the event information somewhere in your event details sections to let folks know they have to apply by a certain time to get a special price. So the next tip that we'll go over is how to create coupons. So coupons can be useful. They can be used for a number of different circumstances. Maybe you have a member-only discount for members that get a discount to their application fee. Maybe a previous artist that won at your festival the year prior gets the application fee waived or discounted for the next year. Maybe you're waiving the jury fee for artists expressing financial need, if that's something that you have set up. Or maybe, you just want to create a one-off coupon for any situation. Maybe you have some regular promotion events that you want to use a coupon with. So you'll go to the events coupon section. And this is where you'll set it up. Similar to the product editor, you'll add a new one by filling in the blank fields. You'll see we have one set up here already. And just to go over the details, the basics, you've got the coupon name. So that's just going to be an internal name for you. It's going to show up on the application transaction details so you can know which coupon the artist used. It's going to show up on the income breakdown report to show you, the coupons that were redeemed. The discount, you'll enter either amount, which will either be a percentage or a dollar amount you can choose. So just make sure you have the right one selected. Maximum uses, if there's no limit to the coupons that can be used, just set that to 0. But you can use that in a way where maybe you just have a coupon for one specific person and only they can use it. You can go ahead and set that to 1 so that only that person can use it. And once they use it, it can't be used anymore. You can also set it, maybe you want to do a promotion where you're offering 20% off of the application fee for a certain period of time, but only to the first, 50 artists that use it. You can go ahead and set that quantity so that only 50 artists can get that, and you can kind of create a little limited time promotion deal with that. The code here, that's the actual code that the artist will enter at the checkout stage. There's, certain steps to the checkout process, and one of those steps is redeeming any coupons. So this is the code that they need to enter. So go ahead and put in up to 10 characters and make sure it does not include any spaces or symbols. You can make the code whatever you want it to be. The start and end date's pretty obvious. That's the date that the coupon can be used. So you'll set a start date and an end date. If it's a general coupon that can be used at any point during your application window, you can just go ahead and put in the start and end dates of your application window or your booth purchasing window. If it is that limited time offer deal, put in that expiration date so that no one after that date can use it. Status, active and not active, pretty self-explanatory. I would just say you set your coupon to inactive if you know you want to pause on any coupons. Want to make sure that you're definitely sure no one can use it, even if you do have some other parameters set up to prohibit some folks from using it, but make sure it's set to active if you need it to be. The next section, you will check off the products that the discount applies to. So all these products that you have created in your product editor will show up here, and you will just check off, which ones they apply to. So in this case, jury fee waiver, we would only have, the jury fee selected. And if you wanted to create it for other things, you can, multiple things at once, you can select that. Another example here could be if you have, a 20% off booth promotion, and you can set up those, but you would only choose the booth products to be applicable. So go ahead and you'd only select those products from the list. Again, be sure to click add if you're adding a new one. Oops, I didn't mean to click that because I didn't fill it out. Or you click update to save the changes, and that will keep your coupons in order. Again, one other note here just to make sure is that you really just share that accurate coupon code. If an artist has any questions about using the coupon or they're having an issue with it, first come here, check to make sure everything is set up to where, the coupons redeemed has not passed the maximum uses. Make sure that, the start and end dates are correct. If everything on your end looks fine, go ahead and ask the artist to reach out to our help support team. They can definitely go in and troubleshoot and help that artist redeem that coupon so that you're not having to troubleshoot that with them. Next, we'll move on to talking about how to keep your products organized. If you sell a wide range of booth products or different types of products, your product editor can start to look pretty busy very quickly. So one of the things that I will say is, let's get back to the product editor. You can always change the order of the products so that you're grouping like products together. And that can be in any kind of grouping that you choose, but I think it's a great way, especially if you have more products than you're seeing on my demo event here, to be able to easily see the products that are similar to each other, and maybe you are creating coupons and you saw how those were all listed at one spot. It's nice to keep those, booth products together. You can do that. So to order your products, you can first either create them in the order you want them to be listed, but that's not always, possible. Maybe you need to add them later. To reorder them, you can just click on this arrow here. You'll see once I click that, it's kind of turned into a movable line, and I can put that somewhere else. So let's say I wanted, for some reason, this electric to be above the booth. I could click and drag that. But like I said, maybe I wanted the booth products to be together, so I can click and drag the booth products so that they're together. It'll take a little trial and error since you can't totally see exactly where you're at entering it. You can kind of see the space it creates in between some products here. But go ahead and do that and make sure that once you update your order, you click Save Product so it actually changes the order of those products. If you don't click Save, it's not going to do anything on the artist side. So again, yeah, think about ordering them in a way that makes sense for you. Maybe you want it to be in kind of chronological order from the start of when an artist is going to purchase maybe their deposit first, then their booth products, then any add-ons you might have later. Maybe you have your event over 2 weekends and you want to group your first weekend products separately from your second weekend products. In that case, make sure your product description is updated so that it shows, first weekend versus second weekend. If that's something you sell at a separate rate. Maybe you want to group different booth locations together. So maybe you have a few different types of settings for your event and you want to have different products for those settings, in which case you would group, all of the ones on the park together versus all of the ones on the street together. And so you can group those together that way. And then maybe, yeah, you just want to separate your add-on products for the booth separate from your add-on products for the event. Parking passes can be separate, but together, electric, all that kind of stuff. So just kind of think about that when you're ordering your products. This can help you in your organization, but it can also really help the artist. When an artist views all these products in their checkout page, it can get a little, overstimulating and they can see this long list and they want to make sure they're purchasing the right products. So if you group them together, they won't miss, that really nice corner booth down at the bottom. It's more towards the top and they can see that with the rest of the booth products. So that's just a little tip for, ordering your products to keep them nice and organized. The fifth tip I have is to activate fees only when artists need to see them. So we talked a little bit about this before, but when I mentioned the active column here, when you have the box selected, that means the artist can see and purchase the product. Again, make sure the rules still apply for jury fees and admin fees only being visible to applicants, whereas booth products, other products, electric products, those can be only visible to artists in the confirmed, accepted, invited, or exempt from jury statuses. But once you have those rules apply, you can also use the active column checkbox here to activate or deactivate any products on the checkout page for artists. There are other few use cases for this that you might want to use this product for or use this feature for. Maybe as products sell out, you can deselect the products so that they're no longer available so artists won't see them. For example, let's say the corner booths were sold out, and yes, on the artist side, they would see corner booth sold out, not being able to purchase that. That could work too, but let's say you just wanted to remove it from the list, keep that list nice and clean of only products available. You can go ahead and deselect that box, click save, and that will remove the corner booth from the checkout side for artists. So that's just a way to kind of keep that organized. Maybe you're dealing with a certain situation where you think you have, a double booth left still to be purchased, but you're, working with someone who might want to change from a single to a double, and you don't want that last double booth to be sold out. So for a period of time, maybe you deselect that product, save it so that it actually removes it from the checkout page. That way no one can go in and purchase that product until you're ready for anyone to purchase it, or you need that one specific artist to purchase that new rate, then you can go ahead and reactivate it. So that's your little bit of a tip to, turn on and off those products as you need to. This is also really useful when you are collecting booth deposits. We're actually going to go over that process a little bit later, but essentially you use this to be able to activate the booth deposit, but deactivate the rest of the products until you're ready for them to purchase it, and then you swap the order later on. Again, we'll go through that workflow in a little bit here. Just know that if you are deactivating booth, specifically booth product types, on the event details page, you might notice, let's actually go to that real quick. I'll just go to the preview actually. You know that there's the fee ranges for the booth products. Oh, I guess it's not on this page, but it's on I think it's on the checkout side for artists. It shows the booth range for how much the booth costs. And artists can see that information. Just know that if a booth product is deactivated from your product editor, that will not show up in the booth range. So in this case, the booth range would be $250 to $500 because that corner booth at 700 is deactivated. So to keep transparency for the cost of your booths, make sure to keep that active unless you really need to turn that off. That more applies to the application window period. Next, I'm going to share a little bit about how to keep track of check payments. If you want to provide the option to pay by for artists to pay by check, there are a few things that you want to keep in mind. Again, like I talked about earlier, when you do have a product, you can select whether the artist can pay by credit card and PayPal, or check, or any of the above. If you do accept checks, make sure it is set to all or just check if that's the case. And one thing some folks do, if you do want to charge a little bit more for a credit card payment as opposed to a check payment, in that case, you might be, passing along the credit card processing fees to the artist, or other way to think about it, providing a little bit of a discount for a check payment. Then what you could do is you could set up let's do the single booth as an example here. You provide one product in which it's credit card only, so you might put credit in the description. Then you would create the same product in which it's a little bit cheaper, and you instead would say this is paid by check. So you would have two products: one single booth credit, one single booth check. The cost will be a little bit different for both of those. That's one way if you want to kind of separate those payment types out and charge a little bit different depending on how they pay. Just make sure those align and that you have those clearly labeled in your description. If you are accepting check payments, I want to make sure that you have your mailing address in the event information tab. Make sure that's accurate because that's the mailing address that will appear to artists when they select to pay by check. They will need to mail the check to you. That's because ZAPP doesn't handle check payments. We only handle credit card and PayPal payments. Checks will get sent to you, and you want to make sure that mailing address is accurate. So make sure that's in there. When an artist purchases a product, whether that be a jury fee, a booth fee, anything, they will go to the awaiting payment by check status. So under events management, let's take a look at some of our applications here. Only got a few in here, but we've got some examples. The awaiting payment by check status will let you know, hey, there's a check heading to you. Make sure you mark this off when you receive it. So if you click on the number under awaiting payment by check, you'll get those list of artists. And you'll see under the payments section, we have a couple checks. You'll see that they paid the early bird check, jury fee by check. We received that. Let's say here we've got a booth deposit check, but that one's still pending. They just paid that, and we need to wait for that check to arrive. The artist will enter the check number, so you can always see that from the payments column here. Speaking of the payments column, if you don't see this on your event management table, go ahead and click Table Editor, and that will make sure you can make sure that payments column is selected here. So once you receive that check, you can go ahead and change the check status to received, and then go over here and change the artist status to either received if it's for a jury fee and the applicant just applied, you received their check, and then they now need to go to the received status to be juried. Or in the case of a booth deposit or booth purchase where they were invited before, but now they're awaiting payment by check because they sent in their booth fees. Once you receive that, you can put them in the confirmed status. That way they will be with the rest of the artists that have paid their booth fees. Don't forget though, once you've changed these drop-down menus, to click Update, and that will move them from awaiting payment by check to the confirmed status. And one thing to note as well, if you are using the booth request feature in which artists can request their booth placement either before or after the booth fees were purchased, if artists are able to submit their request after paying the booth fee, you just have to know that if they pay by check, they'll be moved to the awaiting payment by check status. and they won't immediately be able to submit their booth request. In the ZAPP system, it's pretty automatic where once they submit their booth payment by credit card, they get moved to the confirm status and then they get access to submit their booth request. But for check payments, since that check would be pending, they'll go to awaiting payment by check, and they'll have to wait to be put into confirm to submit their booth request. Now, if you want to override that and make it possible for them to submit their booth request, even though you haven't received the check, all you have to do is put their application in the confirmed status. They'll be able to submit their booth request. Maybe that check itself remains pending, so you can keep track of that on your income breakdown report or in the application itself. Just keep that as pending, even if they're in a different status. And then once you receive that check, just make that check received. So just know that if you're using booth requests, there's a couple things to note if you do accept check payments. And I mentioned the income breakdown report. So in the reports tab under income breakdown, if you accept checks, it's a good idea to run the report separately for whichever purpose you might need. So if you just need to figure out how many checks you've collected, you can click include selected filters, check the checks box. That's a mouthful. And you can run that report. So let me go ahead and put in a nice big date range here. If I run the report, it'll show me all the check payments that I've received. It'll tell me how much is pending versus how many are received. Again, pending would be those that you have not manually marked as received yet. And then the opposite is true if you want to run a report of just the credit card income that you've collected through ZAPP. Be sure to either exclude check payments, or you can do the opposite where you're including only credit cards, whichever works for you. So that's a little bit about check payments and, a few tips for that workflow if you use those. The final topic we'll talk about is using that deposit workflow and the tags associated with it. The deposit collection feature was designed to keep artists who have purchased booths separate from those who have only purchased a deposit. And as you see this workflow, you'll kind of see why. So to collect deposits from everyone, you'll kind of have to do this in a couple different phases. The first thing to note is, let's just set the scene here. I've invited my artists, and everyone that is invited is in the invited status. Again, you're not going to have four, you're probably going to have dozens at least. And so, but just note that everyone's going to be in the invited status. And now I, as the organizer, want to have everyone purchase their deposits first. I just want them to submit their deposits by a certain deadline. We'll figure out the rest of those products later. So what I'm going to do is, in the event editor, I'm going to, of course, in my products, make sure I set up a deposit fee. So I've got my booth deposit, I've got it to the right amount, and under product type, I make sure I select deposit. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to deactivate all the other products I've set up ahead of time, because I don't want artists to purchase their booths, I just want them to purchase their deposits. And I'll click save. The jury fee is still checked, but that doesn't matter because artists have already purchased them at this point. So in this case, artists, when they go to purchase their deposit, they will only see the deposit product in their checkout page. The other thing I'm going to do is set an initial accept and purchase deadline. So in the event info tab, that accept and invitation and purchase deadline, I'm going to set it to an initial window. Maybe I want artists by the end of March to submit their deposits. So again, I'll save that. And then I notify my artists, congratulations, you've been invited. Now is the time to purchase your deposit. You have to purchase your deposit by March 31st. And they'll be able to do that. So they'll go in, they'll make their purchases, and they will likely, from the invited status, once they purchase their deposits, they'll actually go into the accepted status, because at that point they would have accepted their invitation. But in either case, they'll purchase their deposits. Once they purchase the deposit product, I will show you here, they will be in the appropriate status with a tag on their application. Now, this tag is created automatically by ZAPP when they purchase the deposit, and it looks like this: deposit. Again, if you don't see the tags column, be sure to click Table Editor and ensure the tag option is selected. And so this tag essentially helps you organize those that have purchased a deposit from those that have not. And it also kind of allows you to see that visually. So what you'll need to do next is, let's say the deadline is passed. It's April 1st, and those who have purchased the deposits have done so. Those who haven't missed the deadline. Too bad, they can't move forward. So at that point, what you will do is you'll want to move everyone that's purchased a deposit. Um, you will keep them in the invited or accepted status, whatever one you have them in, and everyone else will move to the declined status. So one easy way to do this, and one of the reasons why we have this deposit tag, is so that you can filter by them. So in the event management section, you can filter applicants by. You'll go ahead and click tag, and then you'll create a tag. You'll make sure you select the deposit tag, and that will search for everyone in the invited status that have purchased their deposits. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and separate them, so I want to put them into the accepted status. Oops, I did that. That was the wrong thing to have done. I accidentally moved everyone from the invited to accepted status, but I'm going to still apply the same process. In this case, I'm going to filter applicants by tags for deposits. And now I can see all of those that have purchased the deposit, and I'm going to put them back into invited. I did this a little bit backwards. I'm going to update them. And now you can see that we only have the one artist who did not purchase the deposit. And I'm going to change their status to declined because, again, they missed their deadline and they will not be participating in the event. Once I update that, I have them separated. So now it's possible for anyone, whether they're invited, accepted, as long as they purchase their deposit and you have them separated, you can go ahead and set that accept invitation and purchase deadline to that new deadline, which they can purchase their actual booth products. So let's say end of April. I'll click save on that. I'll then go to the product editor. I'm going to deselect the deposit because I don't want them to purchase the deposit anymore. And I will reactivate all the rest of these so that they can purchase whatever products they are going to be using for the event. There we go. So that's the process. Essentially, it's setting an initial deadline, setting up only the deposit fee to display, and then once you have sorted everybody, whether or not they've paid the deposit, you create that new deadline for purchasing the booth products, and then reactivating the actual booth product. But that deposit tag is helpful. You can, filter for them. You can access that information in their application page, and in the reports, you can, pull a report for all of those and then filter for the deposit tag to make sure that all those artists have purchased the deposit. So that's the deposit workflow. And that wraps up today's webinar about managing your event products. I hope you gained some insight or refreshed your memory on some of these topics. If you have any questions specific to your event or feedback for our team, you can contact us at zaphelp@wearecreativewest.org. Thanks for joining me. I hope to see you at our next webinar.